All right, we've got an astro alert going from the 24th of January to the 31st of January. Basically, the entire week leading up to that new moon in Aquarius. It's a big deal, folks, because that new moon is going to be conjunct Saturn. Now, should you freak out? I'm just going to say, who are you asking? You're asking me. I'm going to tell you every single time, no, don't freak out. What's the point of being anxious and afraid? And, oh no, whatever shall we do? This is not a time to be the maiden that needs rescue in the archetype, nor is it necessary to put on your chaps and your gear and get out there to kick ass. It's not that either. It's about being mindful and mindful of your own consciousness and your own energy. Each one of us is a co-creator, and we are powerful beings. The thing is, every thought that's ever been thought exists. So when people are like, well, these people believe this thing and these people believe this and these astrologers say this and this astrologer says this, and what's right? What's right is what moves you forward, okay? Because it's not like the traditional interpretations are terribly wrong. It's just they don't serve us very well, and it's a stream of consciousness I would rather not engage in. I would rather engage in a different vibratory rate, a different frequency of thought, because it moves us forward. I don't want to engage in a mindset that worked 200 years ago. I want to use a mindset that moves us 200 years forward. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to be now. And what is collapsing with Pluto in Capricorn are all the old ways that do not serve us. Primarily dominance and control. Dominance and control. And that also means feeling helpless. It also means needing rescue. And it doesn't mean when you're having a problem and you need help, don't ask for help. That is a form of taking agency as well. But it is the, I think of Popeye and olive oil and with her, easily able to remove herself from a situation, going, help, help. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. Don't make your default that, don't do it. I understand anxiety. I had it for a really long time. I also know that it's exhausting. And we can tune ourselves using mindfulness practices, somatic practices, a combination of the two to move ourselves forward, okay? I always say I'm not just an astrologer. There were a lot of things I studied to get here. Astrology is my absolute favorite thing in the world to do. But there's a whole lot of skills in the toolkit that help move you forward. So if every thought that's ever been thought is real, choose your reality. And that is my dire warning for the week of the 24th through the 31st. And we'll talk about it in a little more depth here on the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Lori Rivers, your host, and I want to thank you for joining me. Oh, the astrology of it all. So we're with the moon in Libra. It's sliding in today on the 22nd. And pardon Malcolm's inside barks. If you have a bingo card, it doesn't count for the podcast. Although we should make a podcast bingo card. If you don't know what I'm talking about with the bingo cards, if you're a patron, we have Lori Live Bingo. And I'm thinking of some prizes for that. But anywho, we have the moon sliding into Libra today. It's the 22nd as I speak. And trying to speak as quickly as I can because I have a reading in half an hour. The moon in Libra at the end of that transit, which is the 24th, will be squaring off with Pluto. So what does that mean? Every month when that happens, it causes some infrastructure issues. Okay, Libra's about balance. Capricorn is about solidity and foundations and structure, and when those two square off, it's usually a boom. It's usually a boom. And that boom could be a building failure, it could be infrastructure failure of all kinds, especially roads, etc. And with Mercury retrograde right now, that could be cell phone towers, that could be all kinds of things. Because on the 24th, when I look at the astrology, we have Mercury. Let's see, on the 24th, Mercury will be getting ready to leave. Getting ready to leave Aquarius. It's not quite out yet on the 24th, but it's getting close. And so by the time the moon is fully square Pluto, Mars will have also ingressed into Capricorn. And so over the next couple of days, it's going to be a bumpy ride. I just saw on TikTok after the astro alert that I put up for this week on TikTok, there are people from Europe saying, hey, this isn't funny. There's elections happening in our countries. And this is what I want you to remember. These transits are global. They're not just happening in the United States. One of the things the U.S. does is it has this bubble, a nationalistic bubble, where the world revolves around the U.S. And we are a very intertwined and interconnected planet. Okay, it's not this 18th century anymore. We're very intertwined, and it's why COVID could spread so quickly. As a species, we've never had to deal with a pandemic on this kind of scale, and it's due to air travel. Okay, that's something else to remember. So we could see some more issues around air travel as Mercury gets ready to leave Aquarius, as the moon in Libra is squaring off with Pluto. I don't see an airline accident on the 24th, but I do see we could see issues with airlines. And especially maybe some news coming out. Now, I think we have a lot of news being repressed. Okay. You have to remember, media controls the narrative, and they give you talking points, and they do it online too. Be really careful. There are accounts, even of major influencers, that have sponsors. Okay. And agendas. Okay. It sounds really paranoid, but the reason I teach what I teach, and the reason I say train your Mercury, is to help you, disseminate information from a more self-actualized point of view. And that means think carefully for yourself, not just in I don't believe anything anybody says. You don't want to go that direction. But think through things like, what would be a reason people would want you scared? What would be a reason people would want you to feel not able to do stuff? I remember when I was a kid thinking that cooking was really hard because all the TV commercials made cooking sound so hard. because they were all selling things like TV dinners and box mixes and prepped processed food. And my family didn't really use that. They all cooked from scratch. And it seemed like magic because, they had lots of experience. And until I started cooking, I believed the TV commercials. Just like they made the different tests, like gardening. Oh, gardening's hard. Gardening is not hard. Okay. Gardening is not hard. It's hard to deal with weather changes. It's hard to deal, farming on a mass scale can be hard. It's hard work, but the process isn't necessarily difficult. And so, why would the media have trained us to believe we're helpless or trained us to believe we're not capable? Why would that have happened? Well, marketing. They want us to buy stuff. They want us to buy into certain beliefs. And so, we're seeing some really dangerous things happening in our society today, especially in the States where they're calling in the police and the National Guard to fill in for teachers. That is a concern. And what gets me is in those red states that they don't see that that is a step away from an authoritarian government. We want to keep people's butts in seats so bad instead of innovating, which we need to do, that we will have people who are not qualified to teach children. It just really shows what the agenda actually is. And that is just keep the economy going. Well, the economy as is has already been failing before COVID. Okay. Does that mean we're going to lose banks? No. Does that mean we're going to not have money? No. No. It means we need to innovate our structures. Okay. Just like, now I'm not a fan of Bezos. Okay. But I'm going to say the whole reason he was able to grow the way he grew is he kept a singular focus. Okay. A singular focus on his ideas. And bookstores and other small businesses bitched and whined and moaned and said, oh, he's bad, he's evil. And they didn't innovate. They didn't innovate. They just complained. And so you can't just complain when there's something happening. You have to innovate around it. You have to change how you do things. And if other people have gone, you know what, he's got a good idea, I can innovate. I can make things experiential. I can make the reason for people to show up to this bookstore other than they want to buy books. He was showing there was a desire for what he had. Okay, people used his service, and you could blame him all you want, but the consumer said, "Yeah, that's something I want." So instead of bitching and moaning, like how many news articles have there been of, oh, millennials are killing this industry or that industry? Well, maybe that industry didn't innovate. That desire to hold on, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the systems that refuse to change, whether it's a business or a government. And I don't just mean the federal government. I'm talking about state governments. I'm talking about county governments. I'm talking about city governments. Any system that refuses to change. Pluto is saying, well, good luck with that. Good luck with that. You need to change. You need to evolve. And we are all part of the system, whether we like it or not. Even if you're rebelling against it, you're part of it. And so that's why I say, train your Mercury. Train your Mercury. Learn to disseminate. Learn to look at what is actually occurring and how can you use your energy wisely and to the best effect. Okay. Which means tuning into the frequencies that most benefit you, which are honestly the least dramatic. Okay. The high drama does not serve us at all. High drama does not serve us at all. It throws us into adrenaline rushes and cortisol rushes, and those just drive anxiety, depression, you know, all the states our physical body gets stressed out from. And so as we practice mindfulness, bringing our energy inside, looking at what we can do. There are things we can do nothing about. I can't do anything about Texas. I don't live in Texas. I don't vote in Texas. But I can offer process. I can do research and give people information who are asking for it. I can teach about mindfulness because that's what I can do, and help people know that. I can give information about, hey, if you're in Texas and you need to terminate a pregnancy, here's some resources, right? There's that. And hell, when the weather's better, because I don't drive at night, it would take me a minute. Hell, I'd drive to go get somebody if they need it out of there. So it's important to understand what can you do, what's in your agency, what's in your locus of control, and what's outside of it. And if there's stuff outside of your control, it's outside of your control. Let it go, because you can only do with what you've got. But the freakouts don't help. They don't help. They disempower you. There's always something you can do for yourself to live well. That's why I've said, if all you can do is grow some, leafy greens, grow some salad stuff, do it. Even in a small apartment, you can make microgreens. There's so much you can do. And you've been so trained to be disempowered. There's so many young people who think, oh man, I should go to college. And then you go to college and they don't teach you how to deal with the real world. You get a degree and you don't know what to do with it. And then you got debt, instead of teaching people, like, there's more than one way to do things. You don't have to work 9 to 5. It has not been necessary to do life the way we have done life in the United States for over 20 years, almost 30. Okay, but people refused to innovate. And now Uranus in Taurus is really going to force that on the economy. We have to innovate. And that is up to each one of us. So this week is going to be really showing that issue as we lead towards the new moon in Aquarius on the 31st. So Mars is entering Capricorn. Mercury is going to be sliding out of Aquarius back into Capricorn. On the 31st is the new moon. And let me pull that chart up. That has the 31st, I believe, is the new moon. It might be the 30th. Let me look. No, it's the 31st. The moon will be at 12 degrees Aquarius. It's within 3 degrees of Saturn. That is a big deal. Mercury will have already, like the day before, it will have conjuncted Pluto. So we're looking at the 29th, Venus stations direct in Capricorn. So the 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st are very intense days. The moon in Aquarius will square off with Uranus hours before that new moon. About 4 hours before. So the new moon happens at 10:33 p.m. Pacific. So around 8:30 p.m. Pacific, that moon is squaring off with Uranus. And that is going to probably lead to some more seismic events, because also Venus is trine Uranus at that point. So I think we're going to see some shake, rattle, and roll. What can you do? You can have your stuff together. Well, you can have a good attitude. You can have a can-do attitude. All right. Negative thinking is not realism. Okay? Negative thinking is not realism. Realism is, well, here's the situation. Okay? So if there is a natural disaster, it's neither negative nor positive to say we've had a natural disaster. That's what is. It's just what is in front of us. Now, we can go, oh God, we're all going to die. That's not going to help you. Okay. Like if you think about disaster movies, especially from the 70s and 80s, there'd always be this one person, usually female, sometimes male, going, oh, we're all going to die. And, completely useless, you know. And you have to ask, okay, what are the odds? How are my odds? I might not have good odds. But just like when I was a little kid, my mom was telling me about when I was a baby and I was born with pyloric stenosis and they had to operate on me. The doctor looked at my mom and said she has an 80% chance of dying. And my mom was telling me this story with lots of emotion. I was about 5 and I looked at her and went, why didn't, I did the math in my head and I went, why didn't you think about the 20%? That was pretty good, Mom. You tell I have Sagittarius Mars, right? Why not the 20%? My getting out of the Middle East with my kids was nearly impossible. And it really took divine intervention to get me out. And it was less than a 5% chance. It was still there. And I was about to give up. Don't get me wrong. It was one day I will tell the whole story. But that one little bit of hope. And I've talked about 2022, and the one thing we need to move through this year is belief, because we have Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces. Have belief. Belief is no more delusional than thinking all is lost as a realist. Okay. Train your Mercury to tune in to the possibilities. We have a fan of possibilities. Some of them are negative. Some of them are positive. It's not fake positivity to have hope. And sometimes magical thinking is exactly what you need to save your ass. But you have to use inspired action as well. We train our Mercury, we get clear in our desire. What is the outcome I want? We get clear with Venus, and then from there we take right action with our Mars. Okay. We'll talk more about this in Cosmic Surfers on Sunday. Speaking of Cosmic Surfers, we have another Meet the Mods segment, and this time it is with McDubs. You guys often hear me say her name that way on TikTok Lives. McDubs, Mackenzie. Mackenzie is a very special moderator to me. Mackenzie has been my student for over a year, and she is going to find out she's something very special. There's a special announcement in the next segment. I would love you to get to know Mackenzie. She's a very bright, beautiful being who has very much had her own journey and had to learn all about training her Mercury and finding hope, even when there appeared to be none. I think it's a very appropriate interview for today's episode. I hope you enjoy it. It's up next.
Hello, Lori.
Okay, so we've been having some Mercury retrograde stuff, so let's just restart our interview. So we have Mackenzie with us. Mackenzie is also known as McDubs.
Yes.
I love your name.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
and Mackenzie was my first cosmic surfer.
Oh, I can't believe that. That was over a year ago, and I'm
Hmm.
forever grateful to have found you.
Oh my God, both. It's mutual.
Oh,
Yeah. So
good times.
Mackenzie is an amazing student and becoming a good astrologer, a good solid
Oh,
astrologer. Um, I
thanks to
love
your
your
teaching.
insights. Oh, well, yeah, but you're willing to learn.
Mm.
It takes two. It takes two. You guys can tell we have a love fest.
Yes.
Um, and so, if you're a patron and you have beginning astrology questions, you want to know about the chart, you're wondering how things kind of work, the mechanics, ask Mackenzie, ask McDubs, ask in Discord. You can DM, she said before in the last 3 times we tried to record, but
Yes.
don't pester too much because,
Well, and I'll do my best to
yeah,
answer.
yeah.
I've been learning
Mhm,
for like intensely, I think, for like the last year, but I still feel like a beginner, there's just so much to know and
mhm.
learn.
Well, I would say you're an advanced beginner or a beginning
Oh,
intermediate. You're
that's
way
that's
past the
good.
novice stage. We don't use
Yeah.
those grading terms anymore. Um, but like when I was a kid and you were learning something, the novice is like the baby. You're just beginning. You're way past that.
Good.
You're
I
so
think so
way
too.
past that. Yeah, no, you're moving well into intermediate at this point. You have a good handle on things, and
Woo.
but you've put the time in. You know,
Yeah.
so it's not just a year. It's been a serious year of focus. So
Yeah.
uh,
Lots of observation.
absolutely, we have
Hmm.
Malcolm barking. Malcolm inside bark.
I could hear him. He's so
Right.
cute.
Yes. Sorry. What was that? Get over here. Come on. I know. See, he hasn't been
We love
barking
him.
on, right? I know. He hasn't been barking on live streams. So, okay, guys, no cheating on your bingo cards. But anyway, so Mackenzie, what brought you to astrology?
Oh man. Um, it's funny. I have always been drawn to astrology. Like, even when I was little, I would like read my horoscope at the back. I remember being like 10 and being like, "Oh my God, I'm a Libra." And
Hmm. That's the
then
most Libra thing ever.
I know.
Oh my
That's
God,
so
I'm a
funny.
Libra.
So true. And I'm a fifth house Libra at that, so I was like, I am a Libra. But um I was like 15 when I had my first like natal chart done, and I was like, this is really cool, but then that's kind of like the extent of it. I kind of just learned about my own stuff, and I would sit in like Barnes and Noble and read the astrology books.
Hmm.
And then just like phases and cycles, I would go through big astrology phases and then kind of move on and go to like a different obsession, I guess. But
Right.
then it just felt like every winter I would come back to astrology, and I think I got like a professional, like written astrology reading
Hmm.
probably like 3 years ago, and I just remember thinking like I could have put this together. Like this is cookbook astrology. I
Hmm.
just know everything there is to know about astrology, I guess. And so I just like I stopped really reading into it.
Hmm.
But then I guess what really brought me to astrology was I was in a bad accident
Hmm.
about 5 years ago that where I fell off a balcony and became paralyzed. That's kind of like the first thing people would probably see about me is that I'm a wheelchair user.
Hmm.
So I'm part of the disability community, and after that happened, I was really looking for like answers and like
Yeah.
reasons. Why did this have to happen? Like
Hmm.
just kind of delving into all of that. And I don't know, it, after I've like looked at the chart of what happened that day, I can see that it was like a big crisis
Hmm.
time period.
Hmm.
And then when I came across your TikTok like a little over a year ago, I remember you said you were on TikTok because a certain someone wanted to delete the app, and so there must be something to it. And I was like, yes, I feel the same. And so I went to your profile and I was like watching your videos. I was like, oh my gosh, like this woman gets it. She's the real deal. And so I
Aw.
followed you. And I think I watched one of your lives that night, and you still only had like a few thousand followers. So
Oh
I felt
yeah.
very
Yeah.
honored to have like found you so early on.
Yep.
But
Yep. You
I
were
remember,
one of the first because I
I
had under
know,
10,000 at that point, I'm pretty sure.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
because I remember you like did like a live for your first 10,000, and I was like, oh my God, like that's so cool. Um, But I remember watching your live and I was like, there's something so familiar about this woman. Like, how do I know her? And so I
Oh.
just had that feeling that I should, like, you know, sign up for your Patreon. And I just, followed that feeling. And then I quickly learned that I do not know everything about astrology.
Don't we all?
Exactly.
You can study it your whole life and never get to the end of it.
Mm,
That's
true.
what I love about astrology. You might know the mechanics,
Yeah.
but the depth and breadth of interpretation is ever evolving,
Yes.
and just from experience. And I'll never, I don't remember every reading because I do a lot of readings, but I will never forget yours. And,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
because I didn't know anything about you. I just knew
I
you were
know.
McDubs.
Yes.
And I may not have even known that until you told me. So,
Well, I remember you said, did something happen? We were in my sixth house. Had like
mhm.
just gone into the sixth house, and you're like, did something health wise happen in 2016? I was like, well, and I like told you this story,
Right? Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I
And that
just,
was,
yeah,
oh, big
I was
hugs.
like, I don't
Yeah.
know. Do I tell her? I just like didn't
Hmm.
know, and I was just like,
Hmm.
I feel I can trust her. So,
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's a very vulnerable space.
mm-hmm,
And it was just an honor, and it was a crisis. It was both physical and spiritual.
mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always have to go that way, but by gosh, you little spiritual warrior.
I know. Why
Sheesh.
did I do this?
That is the question of our lifetimes, isn't it?
Yes, so true.
But yeah, so obviously, I think people can tell. You and I have worked together a lot because Mackenzie shows up. Cosmic Surfers was meeting twice a month because I forgot my own Patreon. It was really only ever supposed to be once a month.
I was like,
But
I'll
with
take
my
what I can get.
Sagittarius Mars, it was like more, more, more. And I was so excited to have willing students. Um, that I was like meeting twice a month for both Living by Luna and Cosmic Surfers and Coffee with Lori. And honestly, they're all supposed to be once a month. God.
I know. I was like, wow, like she's so like I didn't know how you had the time for all those readings and then all the classes.
I didn't sleep much in 2021.
Yeah.
Um, that's the full moon kicking my ass.
Hmm.
Saying, all right, girl, you're going to get some sleep. I feel restored. I felt restored around maybe like 10 o'clock last night, like the time I needed to go to sleep. I finally got wind in my
Oh my
sails
gosh.
after the
Of
full moon.
course.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
was like, no, we're going to bed now.
Hmm.
Um, and you're a Libra. I was
Hmm.
going to stitch the audio because we've tried this interview like 3 times. Third time's the
Mercury
charm.
retrograde.
Yeah,
Yes.
damn Mercury, freaking Mercury in Aquarius, slipping
Ugh.
into Capricorn. Um, Speaking of, on the 24th of this month, and that's what this episode is about. Mercury's gonna slide back and touch Pluto, and
Hmm.
while the moon in Libra is squaring Pluto, isn't
Yikes.
yeah, isn't that exciting?
Crunchy times.
Crunchy times, crunchy. I was thinking about making some oracle cards with sayings like
Yeah.
crunchy. What do you think?
Yeah, you should. I would buy those. What did Rita and Casey, something about a pickle being crunchy?
Right? Make a pickle. Yeah, crunch it. But yeah, so how has astrology, besides making sense of events in your life, and you could at least see there was timing involved,
Hmm.
that was something we worked on, was understanding, did it have to go that way? Did you have to
Hmm.
have the accident? No, you didn't. We don't pick our trauma,
Hmm.
but there's a range of possibilities. And I think that helps us make sense of the things that seem senseless.
Yeah,
But beyond that, what has astrology helped you understand about yourself?
I guess. So being a Libra, I don't know if this is like super typical Libra, but I feel like I've had a hard time figuring out who I am.
Hmm.
Throughout my whole life, I've been very people pleasing and
Hmm.
just trying to like keep the peace at the
Hmm.
cost of like my own well being and
Yeah.
knowing who I am. And I guess astrology has really helped me like focus inward and like
Mm.
really reflect on myself and just like my whole life and like what I've really figured out, like what I enjoy. And I don't know, it's just helped me get to know myself better and understand myself better. I have a Gemini moon and rising, so I'm like a forever student. I feel like I could
Yeah.
continue learning, 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 and it would just never get old. And I guess I overanalyze my emotions and stuff, which is very Gemini moon. And so it's been nice to have you to like constantly remind me to get into my body, do
Hmm.
the mundane things, don't
Hmm.
stay up in your head.
Yeah, it's so easy to do.
Yeah,
It's so
definitely.
easy to do. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
used to live up in mine, so I give these cautions out of experience, not just theory or wanting to be a controlling teacher or slow anybody down.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a dizzy place with Libra and Gemini energy,
Yeah.
which honestly doesn't get talked about a lot in regular astrology, like mainstream astrology. They tend to gloss over the air signs. They either make them sound like airheads, or
Yeah.
and Gemini is the student. It
Hmm.
is the student. It's all about
Yes.
learning and curiosity, and that's why it seems like a flitter what a flibberty gibbet. That's what my great grandmother would have said. I love old fashioned descriptions. A flibberty gibbet.
I love that word.
Right? But it's like a butterfly going flower to flower. What is this one like? And
Yeah.
what is this one like? And what is this one like? And oh, they're all flowers.
Hmm.
And it's
Yeah.
not as chaotic as people think it is.
I know. And like that pop astrology, like they really hate Geminis. So I was just like, I think that turned me off from it for a while
Hmm.
too, because I was like, ugh, everyone hates me,
It's because if you look at who gets published, you look at their signs, it's because they have an automatic bias against the signs.
Hmm.
Um, and it's really important to step back from that. And we work on that in class, is learning to step back from your bias, because you can't
Yes.
analyze anything. You can't analyze data of any kind if you're steeped in bias. And we will always have a certain amount of our personal preferences, and we'll always have a certain amount of personal bias.
Hmm.
But you can step back and at least say, like, well, I'm always going to have a problem with this sign in general. So I'm going to step back and go, okay, I'm going to depersonalize this for a heartbeat, right?
Yeah. And like removing judgment. That's been a big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Because, we have personal experiences. But when people say, well, every Gemini I've ever met or every Libra I've ever met, it's like, well, how many have you met?
Exactly.
20? 100? There's billions or
Hmm.
millions at the very
Exactly.
least.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So you are an amazing, amazing human being.
Oh, thank you. So are
And
you. I just feel
oh,
I appreciate you and just like, I don't know, just being an amazing teacher, not just of astrology, just of life, you know?
oh, well, that's the goal. And astrology is life. And so
Hmm.
again, I want to now I have asked you to help me teach too.
Yes.
I know, right?
Cue
Yeah.
anxiety, but
I will never ask you to do anything you're not ready to do, and you're not going to get tossed out onto your own. I would not
yes,
do that. We're gonna do things kind of like an apprenticeship.
that's so
So
exciting.
you'll have training wheels, I promise.
Okay, good.
Um, mhm. I know. Poor Mackenzie was like, "Oh," when I
I
asked.
know.
It and it is no small thing for me to ask somebody to learn to teach because I'm really picky.
Oh,
Um,
I feel so honored.
you're good.
Oh.
So I mean it when I tell people if you've got beginning questions, ask Mackenzie. Because
Hmm.
if Mackenzie doesn't know the answers, she'll tag me anyway.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
okay. But yeah, I'm excited. So Mackenzie is the astrologer's apprentice.
Oh, how exciting.
Ooh, I feel like we're starting a whole like new Harry Potter series.
Oh my God. I love it. Mystery school.
Mystery School with the Astrologer's Apprentice, episode 1.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. Oh.
So, before we end the interview, if you could have people know one thing about you that you really
Oh.
want them to know about you, what would that be?
Hmm. That is a good question. Um, I have a lot of sixth house placements, so I just have like a desire to help people
Hmm.
in any way that I can.
Hmm.
And after my accident, everything kind of switched. So
Hmm.
like instead of me being able to help people, it's kind of always been like now people have to help me.
Hmm.
So I think just with my astrology studies, I feel that maybe this is how I can help people.
Yeah.
So if anybody ever has any questions, I would love to be able to help. It's just like it feeds my soul, I guess,
Hmm.
being able to
Hmm.
help. And, I have been on this like healing journey, and a lot of that healing has been like through astrology. Astrology has helped a lot. And I guess sometimes I get like really down in the depths. I've had my own like mental health struggles with it,
Yeah.
and astrology has helped me process those and realize that like this feeling won't last forever. It's
Hmm.
just like a transit or,
Hmm.
just like a tough period. So
Hmm.
maybe helping people realize that hard times won't last and, you know,
Yeah.
good times are ahead, I guess.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, Mackenzie.
Oh,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Absolutely. And you can be more of so much service.
Hmm.
Um, you have a lot of wisdom and you're a
Oh,
deep thinker
hmm.
and you feel
Yeah.
into things and you have a patience about you.
Hmm. Oh,
Um,
thank you.
and a wicked sense of humor, which is
Yes.
essential. We
I
can't
know. I
get
feel like it
things.
almost takes me a while to like show that side of me.
Oh my God. I love it.
It's me and Kathy both have Libra suns, Gemini moons.
You guys are funny too. And I
Oh,
enjoy it. My Gemini Venus and my Libra moon is just like, oh my God, you guys are my posse.
I bet.
But
Oh,
but anyway, thank you so much, Mackenzie. And
oh,
it is
thank you
always
for
a
having
joy.
me.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's my pleasure. All right, guys, make sure you say hi to McDubs in Discord. Ask your
Yes.
astrology questions. She's my apprentice. It's official.
Oh, oh my gosh, I need to get like a badge.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, let's talk to Rita. We'll get some graphics made.
Yes. Oh my God.
All right.
All right. Well,
All
thank you
right.
for having me.
You are so welcome. Much love, darling.
Much love.
All right, let's do some patron shout outs. If you don't know what Patreon is where people support creators. And that could be artists, game developers, podcasters, astrologers. And I've been using Patreon now since December of 2020. And as you heard in the interview with McDubs or McKinsey, she was my first Cosmic Surfer member. And anyway, we have grown. We have grown tremendously. It is a subscription model. And everybody from Astro Adventurers up gets the horoscopes that I put out every couple of days. And these are pretty specific. This is where I give mundane predictions about the weather. This is where I give tips and hints on dealing with the vast amount of energy we're dealing with right now. And then the rising sign horoscopes. Which also include the house, because the moon, if you're using Placidus, which is what I use, I'm not a fan of whole sign. I'll get into that some other time. If you're using Placidus, the moon can move through a sign. It moves through the signs every 2.5 days, but it can go through, a house or two, more than one house. So I always put the house distinction in there as well. So while we're here talking about Patreon, we are well over 300 patrons. I want to just say a huge, huge thank you to everyone who supports the Awake Space. And that means you're supporting this podcast, keeping it sponsorship free, censorship free, and keeping it free for the public to listen and get good information. So let's thank our latest patrons. We've got G, Adele, Danica, Carrie, Isabel, Sam, Angela, Kara, Hawa, Sarah, Kayla, Casey, Christian, Cassidy, Felicity, Gabby, Allison, Beth, Kelly, Olivia, Sarah, Collie, Orla, Priscilla, Via, Megan, Maverick, Catherine, SD, Sally, Mary, Melissa, Patricia, Jessie, Olivia, Jerry, Amelia, Brandy, Gannon, Kelsey, Dan, Kelly, Aisling, one day I'll say it right, Laura, Josh, and Katie. These are our latest patrons. Big thank you to all for being supporters. Cosmic Surfers meets on Sunday. Cosmic Surfers meets on Sunday, the 23rd. That's tomorrow. And then Coffee with Lori. It's going to be a very special one. Coffee with Lori. I'm going to have a special guest who is also a patron. We're going to meet at the Starbucks near me. This particular patron and client lives near me. And we're going to meet up at the Starbucks, meet outside, socially distanced, and do Coffee with Lori there. Super excited to have Yvonne be my guest and get to see somebody in person, even though, again, we're going to be COVID safe and we're going to do this outside. Yay for being in sunny California. Hopefully it's sunny that day. We'll see. Mercury's retrograde. You never know what's going to happen. People always wonder about the different tiers. So Mystic Muses is the $3 tier. That gives you access to Discord and Coffee with Lori and a shout out on the podcast here. Let's see. Astro Adventurers is the horoscopes, Coffee with Lori, Discord, and then special discounts on readings and courses. Living by Luna is a course where you learn observational applied astrology using lunar transits. You do not have to be good at astrology or know anything about it to be able to do Living by Luna. And then Cosmic Surfers is the more metaphysical side of the astrology. And either way. And that gets access to courses as well. So a lot of times, like with my Pluto seminar, um, or other monthly courses, I give that to my cosmic surfers because they're at the highest tier and they're contributing a higher amount in support. But and Living by Luna gets special discounts on courses, and then all patrons get some kind of goodie from me here and there. And I do astro alerts and stuff, even for Mystic Muses, if something big is coming up. And I think everybody needs to know just for people's well-being. So I've been asked to explain the Patreon tiers. I'm proud to be a Patreon ambassador. And so if you want to know more about Patreon, feel free to reach out to me on Discord and I can explain some of it. We might even do like a little workshop or something around it for you creatives, your readers, mystics, and understanding what it takes to build a Patreon. All right, once again, my undying thanks goes out to you for letting me do what I love to do best. So I've been asked, what do I think about the Canadian economists saying that the United States would be a authoritarian state by 2030? And there's been some astrologers making similar claims, or to the converse, saying we'd be a communist state. And I think those astrologers are older and equate communism with authoritarianism. There hasn't been a true communist state in the world ever. There's been authoritarianism utilizing the terms socialism and communism, but we don't really see them applied per the Marxist theory. And all Marx was saying is that if workers are creating products that owners of companies are benefiting from, the workers should have a stake. Okay, that there shouldn't be an unequal accumulation of wealth. Kind of like it's not cool to have billionaires. And, in the late 1800s, we had the robber barons, and we have our new robber barons, and it is already fascist. I think the calls for, oh no, look, fascism is coming. No, fascism has been here since the Bush administration. And honestly, before that, Clinton was Clinton was not a leftist. Neither party are leftist. What do I see? I see we're not there yet. The future isn't set in stone. Could we go authoritarian? Yeah, we could. I think what we're seeing, though, is instead of population saber rattling and getting pitchforks and lighting things on fire, I think you're going to just see people sit down and say, nope, not going to do it. I think we're going to see more collectivism. I think people are going to be pooling their resources together. We're already seeing that as people buy land and property together. But what we need to do is learn different skills. As she had some coffee. We have to learn new skills together. We have to learn how to communicate. I keep telling everybody, you gotta learn how to listen in this Saturn in Aquarius time. And the reason why is we're being prepped because listening skills are going to be everything if you want to make it through the Pluto and Aquarius transit. And it is a long transit. It is not going to lead to unity consciousness in 2024. And it may get ugly before it gets better. Again, please don't panic. Please don't freak out. 90% of the world events honestly don't impact you personally too much. I remember as a young person, I was an exchange student to Brussels. And I even helped pay for the whole experience. I had my very first business, although I didn't look at it that way. I was raising rabbits for show and 4-H. And I had been doing so for 3 years, and I had saved up a lot of money for me as a teenager, a couple $1,000s, and my parents contributed as well. And I went to Belgium, and I had a host mom who was pretty cool. I wasn't excited about it when I first got the news that I would have an old lady countess as my host mom, because I really went to Europe to meet cute boys and dance in discotheques and maybe try alcohol as a legal person. And that didn't happen too much. But I was walking around Brussels on my own. That was the cool thing about having an old lady be my host mom, is she was like, yes, go explore, my child. So I was walking around Brussels, and there was some civil unrest happening at the time in 1985. And there was some localized bombing. Okay, these were homemade bombs. They did more property destruction than people destruction. And it was because Algerian immigrants were treated horrifically in Belgium, in France. Everybody who thinks America's the most racist place on earth, dream on, go to Europe someday. They are no less racist, okay? And as I argued, even as a 15-year-old, when a Belgian young boy and I were having a political discussion, because you can do that over there, he was like, oh, Vietnam, and he brought up Vietnam, and I just looked at him and I went, the Congo. I'm not trying to justify Vietnam. I agree. It was a clusterfuck. It was stupid. We shouldn't have ever been there. But don't get you on your high horse, European countries. You have done major damage. And look up the Congo sometime, because it was fucking brutal. And because of the racist policies in Europe, there has been civil unrest by immigrant communities because they get treated like shit. Funny enough, you treat people like shit, they're not going to like it. And I was walking around Brussels, and a bomb went off. I was so close to it, the sound wave had popped over the area I was in, because sound travels in different ways. So if you're too close to a bomb, but not close enough to see it, you may not even know it happened. And so when I got back to the house, Tonkapi was like, oh, I'm so glad you're okay. I was concerned, because we didn't have cell phones in 1985. And found out there'd been a bombing. And I had literally been a block over from where it happened. That taught me something important. Years later, in university, a couple of years later, I was in London. This time my parents were contributing some, but not all, or very much, and because they didn't want me to be there. So they made it as hard as it could be for me to be there, which was fine. Taught me a lot. And I almost got blown up a couple times because the IRA was bombing the snot out of London. And I missed getting blowed up real good a couple times. What did that teach me? It was not my day. It was not my day, any of those days. When I was in the Ivory Coast, there was a lot of political unrest. The country was being destabilized. Well, I had a lot more knowledge. I was recently graduated from university. I was a political analyst. I was there for a couple of reasons for the company I worked for. I was gathering data for headquarters and the board, and I was doing some political analysis for investment purposes. And there was quite a lot going on. And a couple times I had to run real fast, and I lost a couple good pairs of shoes in the process. Because let me tell you, running in high heels slows you down. Kick them off. Was it personal? No. Did I die? Nope. And so worrying about stuff doesn't help. Taking it all personally doesn't help. Let me tell you, when I heard the bullets, I knew it wasn't personal. It wasn't because they were out to get Lori. They just weren't thrilled with anyone who looked French. I look French. It was not a good time to look French. And they had every damn good reason. But it wasn't personal. It wasn't personal. It wasn't the universe conspiring to get me. I wanted adventure, and by golly, I got it. And I figured out that adventures in books and movies looks a lot more fun than it is in real life. But it wasn't personal. Now, as we move forward and things change, what is personal is if there's economic issues. Well, what do? You can sit and have a mindset that everything's going to be hard, or you can put your shoulder into it and look at ways to innovate and make yourself as comfortable as possible. Okay. Depriving yourself and having a shitty mindset doesn't help. Okay. Now, when I talk about the money spent on me, my parents were not wealthy. Not even close. My dad was a firefighter. My mom worked in a department store. I worked. I saved. And when I was in England, I worked 3 jobs while going to school full time, overloaded on credits. And they weren't always fun jobs. And a couple of them were under the table because I was limited. You find a way. When people are like, how did you do it? I don't know. I figured it out. I blindly sometimes. Did I do it always right? No. Were there times I didn't eat as well? Yeah. Sometimes I had to eat not so great. I lived on ramen a good deal. It was cheap. Or I, was lucky to have some friends who would, offer food. I would tutor people in exchange for dinner. And you find a way to make it work, knowing it's not always going to be that way. So, what's going to happen? Is it going to be authoritarianism? Well, if we let it happen. Yeah. It was a concerted effort by the Koch brothers to infiltrate the GOP, and they did a hell of a job. But the Democrats haven't done us any favors. They're corporatists, and they're all arguing for the corporatism. Okay, there is no such thing as progressive politics in American government. I see the possibility, but it takes every single person taking action to knock over these political parties who don't even care about the U.S. Constitution unless it's to their benefit. That's what I think. So what do I think about that Canadian economist? Well, I think he should look at his own country because Canada has some of the worst polluting corporations on the planet, mining and oil. And they're all over the world. Everybody likes to think well of Canada. Canada has 30 million people. They have a terrible human rights record. They're no better in their colonialist views, and they are still part of the Commonwealth, mind you. Which, by the way, the Commonwealth is going to be teetering, let's just say, over the next several years. So, as far as Canada is concerned, Canada needs to look at their own backyard. They really do. It's not more accepting or progressive than the United States. It's really not. Depends on where you're at. There's pockets. But their own environmental records, their own human rights records are really no better than that in the United States. I am certainly not a nationalist. I'm an internationalist. I'm not a globalist. There's a difference. I don't believe in multinational corporations having as much stake as they've got. And I warned about that back in the 90s in one of my college theses. I warned because we had to give a 20-year forecast. What we thought the world would be like in 20 years. And I said, if we keep on the globalism track, multinationals with no allegiance to any nation would be buying and selling and commoditizing the goods of other countries, the resources. And we would lose the understanding of human value. I got laughed at, but that's kind of where we're at today. So it's up to us as humans to deprogram ourselves from social and cultural programming. That's why this Pluto in Capricorn transit has hit so many people so hard, especially those of you born in from the early 90s down into the 80s with that Neptune and Uranus conjunction in Capricorn. That is not a personal placement. That is a generational placement. You've been finding out the lies. The lies that if you went to college, you had a future. College doesn't teach you how to build a future. It fills your head full of information. Some of that information is useful, but skill building is the way forward. Now we've got Mars coming into Capricorn very, very shortly. I would assess my skills and my skill sets, and don't think just because something's easy, it doesn't have value. It sure as hell does. Knowing your skills and then innovating therein is what proofs you against authoritarianism and making friends. Real friends, learning to communicate, collaborate, play, learning to cooperate together. I'll be talking about that a lot more. But you wanted to know what I thought about it? There you go. That's what I think about it. This is going to be a short podcast because I got readings to do. But I wanted to give you guys that heads up on what is coming up for next week. And of course, we'll have a follow-up episode.